Hey everyone, I am fired up. Today we have a special guest and we're going to talk about leadership in the business place, pride, and about moving your business forward and being a part of the LBG community. We have Dr. Steve Yacovelli. I know I butchered your name, my friend.
That's all right.
The gay leadership dude and the owner of the TopDog Learning Group, which is one of the biggest ones out there. You have clients from Walt Disney. You have clients from the Bill Gates Foundation. You have clients from Ohio State, many other universities. I mean, you are probably the leader in the country, if not the world, in gay leadership. And that's what we're going to talk about. And welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. It's really great to be here, Lance.
Steve, doctor, can you please tell everybody about yourself, your brand, and why you think it's so important to talk about gay leadership?
Yeah, so I actually started TopDog Learning Group in 2008, which we'll talk about that, my timing, how horrible that was a little bit later. But really wanted to focus on leadership, change management, learning and development, and diversity and inclusion consulting and kind of all that intersection there. And that's where I came from in my whole career and decided to kind of go out on my own and do that thing and work with companies like the Walt Disney Company, as you said, Bayer Pharmaceutical, some really cool big and small folks, just to really help them be more awesome, if you will, in their world. And then last year, my book, Pride Leadership, came out. So strategies for...
I love the line.
Yeah, I know, right? The lion synergy. It's like this pride thing. But, I've been, as a gay man, I've been in the leadership space for a while, but also through the lens of being a member of the LGBTQ+ community. And so I wrote this book about leadership through the lens of being queer, to kind of use the broad term. And then to kind of promote that and support that, I launched the Gay Leadership Dude sub-brand. And that's kind of where I kind of wear both hats, if you will. We have the top dog hat for the general masses. And then the Gay Leadership Dude is really focused on cultivating the leadership of that specific community.
What separates your leadership style from, there isn't many other people that are jumping into the gay leadership world. There's a few out there, but you definitely are the leader in it. What separates you, and why do you think you're so dominant in your space? Besides being good looking, charismatic, and you're great on social media. So I'll give you that, but that doesn't keep your company growing. So besides that.
Well, because gay people are superior to straight people, hands down. I'm just kidding. That's not true at all. And all kidding aside, I've been in the leadership space like 25 plus years, and you start to see patterns of behavior, whether it be going with a large Fortune 50 to not-for-profits. You see what leaders are rocking it, and you see ones that are just crashing and burning. And so, the nerd in me is kind of tucking that data away. And then I do a lot of advocacy work on behalf of the LGBTQ+ community. And so I started watching my peers who are in leadership roles within those specific areas. And I don't know if you remember the Sex and the City years ago, but there was, the writer, Carrie Bradshaw, and she always started every damn episode with, "I couldn't help but wonder." And so I kind of thought that too. Like, I couldn't help but wonder, is there something about being a member of the LGBTQ+ community that allows you to flex your leadership muscles a little bit differently? And so I started thinking about, well, what are the big competencies that I'm seeing, in general, folks really doing so well? And I have my visual aid because I have my mouse pad next to me. And that's where I came up with these 6 leadership competencies that I focused on in Pride leadership. So for example, authenticity. You hear that out in the field that, hey, if you're an authentic leader, you're more effective. Yes, of course you are. But now put that through the lens of being someone who, is openly out as their authentic self in the workplace, or understands their gender identity and gender expression in the workplace. Like that, you can't get more authentic than that. And so I argue in the book that those opportunities really help you build up your leadership courage and leadership competencies a little bit differently than our straight brothers and sisters do.
Because that's interesting, because that leads me to the next question. You truly believe there's a difference between being me, a straight male, a leader. I have 150 some plus employees, multiple businesses. You have multiple employees, and you're a gay male. You think there's a difference between our leadership styles and most gay people versus straight people. That's accurate, correct?
It may not be the leadership style, but I think it's how we've developed our leadership competence. So, for example, leadership courage, I'll throw that as one of the competencies. You, Lance, have developed your leadership courage maybe in a different way than I have. For me, I'm constantly having to come out to folks. It's, obviously the gay leadership dude, it's pretty damn obvious, kind of some of the things that I focus on. But, prior to that, when I work with these big clients, I'd have to make that conscious decision. Every time I facilitate a class of like 40 people, do I tell them, that I have a husband of 22 years. And if I'm going to be authentic, which again, authenticity is one of my leadership competencies, then yeah, I need to do that. And also that's a way.
Do you think people care? Not to cut
Yes.
off. You still do.
Yes. Yes. Because when you think about a member of my community, we're an invisible minority. Typically, you saw me walking down the street, you may or may not know that I'm a homosexual. But if I'm black or if I'm a woman, it's usually pretty darn obvious. And so that's one of the nuances that's different about our community, and that visibility truly matters. And I think that's really where it's very important for any member of my community to come out and be visible, so that people know, oh my gosh, that leader or that person who did that keynote or whatever, oh, they're queer. That's interesting. Now that might broaden my perspective and maybe reduce some of those stereotypes that are out there.
Like, I'm just going to shoot you straight. I have a gay sister, my Jolene. So when I got to know you, I never once looked at someone and said they're gay. Could never probably tell you my whole entire, I don't care. I don't think most people, this isn't 30, 40 years ago. Do you agree with that? Like, most people in the workplace, as the vice president of AT&T, had 900 employees. I couldn't tell you how many were gay. I never said,
right.
I never heard a comment, but my sister Jolene will tell me, and a few other of my gay friends will tell me, people still make rude comments to their kids. They make rude comments. Is that still happening in 2020?
Absolutely. And I think you could spin it about, I know some people say, oh, I don't see color. I have lots of black friends, Latino friends. And I think that does a disservice to the others, meaning us, when you don't recognize that difference that we have. Because, I know years ago, I remember people saying like, oh yeah, I don't see color. You have to see color, because that's a part of the experience that particular person has. You have to see your sister as a lesbian, me as a gay man, because we are looking through a different lens of the world. And yeah, we still get harassed, and I was sharing with you earlier that my Gay Leadership Dude Facebook page, I'm constantly getting trolled there. I see all these different Bible verses. I have some really, really graphic things that I had to report to Facebook like last week, and that's just because I'm advertising on Facebook and people find my my page that way. So yeah, it still happens.
It's amazing to me in a time of 2020 that people, what do you put in Bible verses on, or even saying anything to you, because
anything.
It's, I feel sorry that you have to look through it that lens to even justify or speak about it, because that's a terrible situation for anyone to be in. Which brings me to my next part about you growing this company. You didn't come out till you were older. I know that, but the suicide rate is so much higher than for gay males than straight males in the teenage years. And I'm assuming there's a lot of conflict there. Can you talk to that to me?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a psychologist, but I kind of hypothesize through the lens of my own experience that if you look at especially male culture, and there's in the U.S. as well as many other countries, there's very masculine and feminine identities that are out there. And so put that through the lens of a young man who is trying to figure out that, ooh, maybe I'm not like that typical guy. Maybe I might be drawn to other guys, or guys and girls, or whatever that looks like. Or even the straight kids who like things that aren't the masculine stuff, who don't gravitate toward sports, maybe gravitate toward theater or other things that are not stereotypically male. And yes, of course, there's shades of that changing and all that stuff, but there's those stereotypes that are out there. So now you have this kid who is going through adolescence, which just sucks for every single human in the world anyway. And then they're realizing that their development maybe isn't the norm. And then you might throw in on top of that the overt or unconscious biases that they're seeing within their family or their peer group about anti LGBT focus or energy. And so you add that weight to the kid, and yeah, I mean, it would probably contribute to that difference in feeling that they can kind of support themselves and kind of go through life, and might lead to higher suicide rates.
That's sad. I mean, so let's talk about that journey, right? You went to Pottstown or Pottsville here in Pennsylvania, correct?
Owen J. Roberts, man, come on.
That's right. You went with the Beasley brothers, right? They played football there and wrestled there.
Yeah, I knew them, but not very well, but yes.
Good athletes, good athletes. So my question to you is, you're going through high school. You're straight at that time. Clearly, you were a very good-looking guy in high school.
I was a fat kid, but thank you.
Okay. So maybe not. Did you think you might be gay in high school and college when you were in the military, or you had no clue?
No, I mean, think about this is the 70s and 80s. You're not seeing a lot of positive role models anywhere. We're not having these types of conversations around gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation. It's pre-Ellen coming out. It's a different damn world. And so now looking back, yeah, I was leaving massive clues to myself, but through the context of the 70s and the 80s, they were not being picked up on my little gay radar. So no, it didn't register.
So you moved to Florida, you come back. What was that defining moment where you knew you were gay and you had to tell your parents? What was that like?
I started finding myself a little bit more curious about things. And then I actually ended up meeting this guy who was very similar to me. Like we were both frat dudes. We were big men's on our different campuses, like very identical. He had already identified as gay. And I'm like, maybe that's me. And so we actually started dating. And that was kind of like, this is why I never wanted to marry the girls I dated. And so that's kind of how it really fell into place for me. It was just meeting the right person who helped me shine a mirror to myself and see, oh, that's why things never worked out the way they did. And thank goodness, because, I could be married with kids and now have to figure out how to divorce my wife and, tell my kids and go lead my authentic life in a different way. So I'm incredibly thankful and still very close friends with this particular person. But then it's the journey of, oh shit, I just, figure my authentic self out. And so I often say that when someone comes out a little bit later in life, later being not during the actual adolescence, you actually go through adolescence a second time. So not only did it suck the first time for those of us, but then here's me at 23, 24, going through it all damn over again. It's like, ugh. And it's very frustrating for most queer people when they have to kind of do that double coming out from an adolescence perspective.
Now, you come out, you go to Ohio for college, and
Go
now
Bucks.
and we're Penn State fans in my house.
That's okay. That's all right. That's all right.
We'll have you guys over. Now let's talk about all these lessons you learned, right? It's now you go to corporate America. I think your first job was Walt Disney, if I remember correctly, right? You're working on cruise lines and you're traveling.
One of the earlier ones, yeah. So working for Disney Cruise Line in 2001 was when I started that particular job, and I had a couple other professional jobs before then, but that was kind of the first, one of the first really big jobs from a professional perspective. Yeah.
You start climbing the corporate ladder. When did you know that, hey, listen, I'm going to get into leadership, understand it, and I'm going to shine and make sure people, because I always feel like I watch your stuff on social media, which I love, by the way. You stand up and you stand tall and proud, which I'll stand with you any day of the week on that, because I don't think anyone should give a shit, but that's, a whole nother story. But you take that now into the corporate world and you're teaching people how to be proud and be good leaders, though, and own it. Can you talk about that? Like how you said, no, wait, I'm going to take what I've learned from corporate America and apply it here.
So it was actually at Disney Cruise Line where I started understanding the concept of diversity and inclusion as it relates to the workplace. And so I was an internal leadership consultant then. I would travel on board the ships and do training classes and stuff. It was a sweet, sweet, sweet gig, I have to say. It was on a cruise ship like every 2 weeks. Like, this is not bad. So I did that for almost 5 years or so. But that's where I started seeing the intersection of leadership and diversity and inclusion. And so that kind of tucked that away in my world. And then as I progressed through other things that I started doing, the constant understanding of leadership was a continual thread. And whether it be like when I worked at IBM, I was a change management consultant for a couple of years. And so one of the things that you start to see when you start to research and understand how change happens in organizations, there's massive focus on executive leadership and middle management to support whatever change initiative you have, whether that be, a new business process, a new software, or even a business change of behavior, like, hey, let's go ahead and embrace inclusion as it looks in the business. So you start to tuck away and see the patterns. And that's where I'm really trying to focus on leadership as it relates to people being inclusive. And I like to use the term consciously inclusive leadership, because that's kind of the phrase that me and my team work. And then I just kind of started looking at the LGBT leadership focus just about a year and a half ago, because no one was having that conversation. I mean, there's a couple folks here and there having those pockets of chat, but no one is taking a bigger approach to say, look, you're a queer leader. You actually have some things you can bring to the table right now through your authenticity, through your courage, through the empathy that you bring, that there's, straight folks are striving to try to get. You kind of already got it. And let me help you kind of shape that up a little bit, and you can channel that energy to be an even more awesome leader than you are.
You're a leader in an organization. You're a gay leader, where I don't think, in my opinion, and then in my organizations, no one's going to look at you. You're not going to pass for a promotion. But you still believe in corporate America today, 2020, you could be passed up for a promotion because you're gay, or somebody
Totally.
will do business with you because you're gay. You believe it.
Totally. Absolutely. I'd stake my dog's lives on it, that it still happens today.
Some of the best experts, some of the best people I met are gay, and they do a great job. Why does anyone give a shit is my point. You build a nice company. You have a very diverse company. Not everyone's gay in your organization.
Nope.
But you feel like everyone should have to understand. And can you explain that? Because you have military, ex-military people in your organization. You have quite a few things that don't hit what you would say is the stereotype, right? I mean, is that fair?
Yeah, I think it's a fair assessment to say that we have a very diverse team. That's by design. The commonality is that we all share the same values of inclusivity. Would be kind of the hands down first thing. Now for TopDog, we're working with the general public. It's not just like the LGBTQ+ community. So it doesn't matter who is doing that work, as long as they're competent to do it. But there has to be that thread. It's just like any other corporate values. Inclusivity, fairness, equity, justice. These are things that make TopDog, and that's part of our dog house, if you will. And so anyone who's a TopDogger has to be part of that fabric. And it's like going to any big corporation where you can get on their website and see what their organizational values are. That's the rules of engagement, and that's how we operate. Now, for certain topics, for example, queer leadership, it helps that if and a lot of times we do like double when we're doing face-to-face work, we do 2 facilitators, and at least one probably should be a member of the community, and then the other person can be an ally, and that's totally fine. Just because, again, there's that nuance of understanding that as a queer person, I might look at things just that little bit different based upon my experience and all that good stuff. So that's probably the only time when we make let's make sure that there's a gay person in the room. But otherwise, it's just the commonality of people who can be empathetic and people who can embrace inclusion, whatever we're doing with clients.
I've seen your business has grown over the years. I see over the last 18 months to 2 years, you've gone to social media heavy. Very heavily, and you stand your ground, but you don't care about the trolls, which either do I, which I appreciate. I always say to people, as you keep climbing the ladder, more people are going to troll you, say stuff. Can you talk about why you go, and you're a big fan of Facebook at Evolve. It seems like Facebook's your main one, IG's your second, and then you kind of work your way down.
I'm not a Twitterer. I'm not sure. So I've always had some sort of social media presence from a work perspective. LinkedIn mainly for my personal brand and kind of moving things that way. But when I was starting to market for my book Pride Leadership, my amazing publisher, who's really fantastic at social media, she's like, you need to be on all of them and you need to be now. I'm like, Jen, fine. So I kind of drug myself into Twitter, drug myself into Instagram. And so I just have been understanding and exploring, how you can leverage social media correctly. And I'm always a big person to say that I'm not going to make money off of social media, but I'm going to make a poop ton of street cred off of social media. And that's kind of where we focus our energy. It's brand recognition, thought leadership, and maybe getting the word out of like, hey, here's a webinar we're doing, or here's a free book if you want it, just to kind of, share some of those things. But really trying to make it more of a brand supporter for what we're doing, and always remain consistent across all the platforms with that brand consistency, I guess you might say. Is
it amazing the behavior from platform to platform, Harold? You could post a piece of content on LinkedIn, and you're not going to get really trolled there. You might have someone come and give an educated opinion back to you, right? Like, well, But on Facebook and Instagram, you'll have people just say the craziest things, right? Yeah, like,
exactly.
what advice would you give to a young gay entrepreneur that's going out and saying, I want to build a business?
I think and I would actually say this for any entrepreneur, and some of the mentees that I've had over the years, I say, and I say this in all my leadership classes, whether you're the C-suite or you're just kind of shiny new out of the wrapper, have awareness of what skills you have and the ones you don't have. And so the ones you have, build them up as best as you can. The ones you don't have, you have two choices. You either work to make those awesome, or and probably better yet, as a young entrepreneur, you find someone who's really awesome at that and get their perspective. I know, and I'm still not the best when it comes to the finances of my business, but I have really smart people who do that. And that's great. That's fine. And I think having that self-awareness and then being okay with seeking help, that's gold for you to grow not just yourself, but your business as well.
What's the biggest challenge that you're facing in your workplace and community? What's the biggest challenge that jumps out at you?
One of the main things that we do as a revenue stream is stand-up training. So that's kind of looks a little different in 2020 in the age of COVID. In 1 week I lost a $250,000 in contracts. It's like, whoa, So, but what it's done is it's really allowed me personally and my team to start to pivot and look at things differently. My doctorate's in instructional technology and distance education. So the age of Zoom and doing distance learning is not foreign to me at all. But it wasn't the main focus of the business because, we had some success there, but most consumers weren't really in that world. Now it's a whole new ballgame. And so we're actually excited to do the pivot, like, okay, no face-to-face, now it's on online. What can we do to get to market as fast as we can? We already had some stuff, which we're seeing like triple-digit increases in some of our off-the-shelf diversity and inclusion training that we do, which is awesome. We're like, yay. But then it's what else can we do to pivot, take some existing content that we have already and turn it into a new delivery method. And so I think that's the biggest challenge is the limits of, or the imposition of social distancing, but it's also the biggest opportunity we're seeing as well.
Awesome. What's the biggest thing you're working on right now to move your business forward? What's the biggest piece?
So it's actually two. So with Pride Leadership, the book was never the thing. It was always something afterwards. And so we created and it was always online, which is just serendipitous. But it's an 8-week online leadership program focused around the book. And so we're rolling that out to folks. We have about 24 in it right now, and it's rolling enrollment, which is nice. So that's like one of the biggest things we're focusing on. And then the other one is actually from the request of some of my friends who are independent contractors, authors, consultants, who are just, or keynote speakers who are just kind of like, I envision the end of Titanic when the ship went down, Rose is on the door, and everyone's flailing in the water, kind of doing this thing. I feel like I'm Rose on the door, and I'm like, bye, Jack Sickle, see ya. But I'm trying to pull my friends who are flailing and what they can do. So we're actually developing an online program to help people create their own online programs. So it's very metadata kind of thing. But I think that's the other big thing that we're just really putting our head around, just to help folks around us, because we know we have that expertise. We've been doing it. Matter of fact, a lot of my clients have been coming back to us. About a month and a half ago is when the lights finally went on for folks. They're like, this isn't temporary. This is all of 2020. And so we have folks saying, Steve, that 3-day conference that we used to do, help us think about it through the lens of all being online, or making this class that we have self-paced so we can deliver to folks that way. Like, sure. And that's one of the things we do anyway as a consulting firm. So when we're trying to make that almost like a group coaching kind of mentality to help other folks develop their own products so they can survive this weird time.
Sad that you have to still live in a place where people look at you even as a gay man, or you have to advocate so much for rights. I feel sorry for that, because you shouldn't have to, or no one should. But I promise you, keep doing what you're doing. I love what you do. You're an inspiration for so many people, and keep kicking ass, man. It's really impressive watching what you're doing.
Thanks, Lance, and thank you for being an ally. We would not be anywhere near having equality for all if it weren't for awesome allies like you. So thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you so much, Doctor. Enjoy your day.
Take care.